You've been riding your e-bike wrong. Not because of anything you did, but because of what the factory didn't do. Every bike ships with default settings built for a rider who isn't you, on terrain that isn't yours. And those defaults are quietly working against your battery, your knees, and your safety. We've pulled together the 10 most common culprits, based on owner reports and real-world testing, and broken each one down into something you can actually fix. Some take 30 seconds, some need an Allen key, but every single one is worth doing today. Your e-bike is heavy, and once you add your body weight, a backpack, maybe some panniers, that whole system can easily push past 250 pounds. So whatever pressure worked on your old bicycle means nothing here. Underinflated tires create drag, which forces the motor to work harder just to keep you moving, and that alone can cost you close to 10% of your range. Overinflated tires wear down the center tread and cut your grip, which on a 50-pound bike at 20 miles an hour isn't a small thing. For standard commuter tires, you're generally landing somewhere between 35 and 50 psi, and fat tires run much lower. One detail almost everyone misses: your rear tire should sit a few psi higher than the front, since it's carrying the extra weight of the motor and battery. Grab a floor pump with a real gauge and check weekly, because temperature swings alone can shift your pressure overnight. This is the one manufacturers would rather you never think about, because the correct habit costs them a future battery sale. Charging to 100% every single night keeps those lithium cells sitting at maximum voltage for hours. And that voltage stress is what quietly eats away at your battery's lifespan. Staying between 20 and 80% charge instead can stretch your battery from around 500 cycles to 800 or more. If your bike's companion app lets you cap charging at 80%, use it. If not, a cheap outlet timer set to cut power after a few hours does the same job. And if you're storing the bike for winter, charge it to roughly half, not full, and check on it monthly. Buried in your display's settings menu is a value that tells your controller exactly when to cut motor assist. And it's wrong more often than you'd think. Some bikes ship with that limit set in kilometers instead of miles, so a 25 kilometers per hour cap is actually holding you to around 15 miles an hour, well under what your bike is legally allowed to do. Others go the opposite direction, capped absurdly high because the manufacturer sells one global SKU, which can quietly bump your bike into a different legal class without you knowing. That matters because it decides which trails and bike paths you're even allowed on. Pull up your speed setting, confirm the unit, and match it to your actual class. Roughly 20 miles per hour for Class 1 or 28 for Class 3. Every number on your display, speed, distance, range, is calculated from a wheel size value programmed at the factory, and that value is wrong on more bikes than you'd expect. It happens because the same controller often ships across multiple bike models with different tire sizes, and quality control doesn't always catch it. A 20-inch wheel mistakenly programmed as 26 inches will show you a speed roughly 30% higher than what you're actually doing. So you think you're cruising at 20 when you're really closer to 15. Check the size printed right on your tire's sidewall. Then confirm it matches the wheel setting in your menu. It's a 10-second fix for a number you've been trusting every single ride. If your bike has a front suspension fork, that air pressure was tuned for an average rider who doesn't reflect you at all. What you actually want to dial in is sag, how much the fork compresses just from your body weight sitting on the bike. The sweet spot is usually 20 to 25% of total travel. Too little sag, and the fork stays stiff, chattering over every bump instead of soaking it up. Too much, and it bottoms out on anything moderate, making the whole bike feel loose through corners. Adjust with a shock pump in small increments, then dial in rebound damping too. That's how fast the fork springs back after compressing. Give it 10 minutes of riding between adjustments, and you'll feel the difference immediately. Your e-bike can weigh over 50 pounds and hit speeds up to 28 miles an hour, yet the gap between your brake lever and the grip was set by someone who never touched your hands. If that lever sits too far out, you end up braking with just your fingertips, which quietly steals stopping power exactly when you need it most. Most hydraulic levers have a small reach adjustment screw right on the lever body, and dialing it in takes about a minute with a 2mm Allen key. While you're there, check that both brake levers actually cut power to the motor, because on some budget bikes, only one side does, and grabbing the wrong one in a panic stop won't stop the motor from pushing you forward. Because the motor is doing part of the work, riders tend to set their seat lower than they should, just to flat foot easily at stops. But that creates a knee angle that's too tight at the top of each pedal stroke, which adds pressure right where you don't want it. Start with your heel on the pedal at its lowest point, leg fully straight. Then when you switch to the ball of your foot, you should have a slight bend, roughly 25 to 30 degrees. Don't stop there though. Slide the saddle forward or back until your kneecap lines up over the pedal axle when the cranks are level. Keep the tilt close to flat. Your motor handles the power, but your body still handles the position. Headlight and taillight configuration. A lot of riders don't even realize their lights are switched off by default, which means visibility becomes something you have to remember every single time you ride. If your display has an automatic light mode tied to an ambient sensor, turn it on. And even without that feature, running your headlight during the day makes a real difference. Research on two-wheeled vehicles has shown daytime running lights can cut collision risk by close to 19%, mostly by making you visible at intersections. The power cost is nearly nothing, maybe 1% of your battery over a full ride. While you're in the settings, confirm your taillight actually turns on with the same switch, because on some budget builds, it runs on a separate circuit entirely. Gear indexing and derailleur adjustment. Most e-bikes leave the factory only partially dialed in, and the derailleur is usually the first thing to drift out of adjustment during shipping. You'll notice it as ghost shifts, where the chain jumps gears on its own, or sluggish shifting where nothing happens for half a pedal stroke. The fix lives in the barrel adjuster near where the cable meets the derailleur, and quarter turns are all it takes. Counterclockwise to add tension if upshifts feel hesitant, clockwise if it overshoots. This matters more here than on a regular bike, because motor torque amplifies every drivetrain flaw, and a chain that skips under load wears down your cassette noticeably faster. Pedal assist levels and current limit. This is the one most riders never touch after the first week. They find a level that feels fine and leave it there permanently, usually somewhere in the middle. But the power jump between levels often isn't even, so you can end up with a huge gap between level 2 and 3. And barely any difference between 4 and 5. If your display gives you access to the deeper settings menu, you can often add more assist levels for finer control and adjust the current limit, the actual amperage sent to the motor. That single number shapes how your bike accelerates, how hard it pulls on hills, and how far your battery actually stretches. Once you dial it in, it stops feeling like a factory setting and starts feeling like your bike. That's 10 settings, 10 small fixes, one noticeably better bike. If even 3 of these applied to you, your next ride is already going to feel noticeably better. That was all. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts in the comment. And if you found it helpful, give it a like and subscribe for more videos.